Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to this time chapter 11, Project Control. As you remember from last week, I said project control to me is very much synonymous with project monitoring, which was largely the conversation last week. So when you listen to the conversations, the lectures last week and this week, make notes on the various controls because monitoring and controlling are tightly wound together and related. Control is information that you've collected about the system performance. So while you're building your project, your deliverable, right, you're comparing it to the desired or planned level. So it's this actual results versus your planned results. And is there a gap? Is there a difference? And we're going to take action if the actual or desired performance is different enough, right? So we're doing performance reporting. We're comparing the differences between the desired and actual performance. We're accounting for why such differences exist. So we're going to go back to quality, for example, and do root cause analysis, that sort of thing. So we're tying these pieces together. We're going to go back to communications and communicate with the stakeholders what's going on and solicit inputs, right? Because leadership will be very interested in how we're progressing. Remember, the aim of the project is to help achieve some strategic objective of the organization. So this is really a focus on control. It's very similar to last week, but some additional tools offered in a practical way. So a great many things, as you have seen already in real life and in the course conversations, can go wrong with the project, especially scope, schedule, and cost. Scope, schedule, and cost is a focus of the project itself. This we refer to often as the iron triangle, right? That once you get the scope to match the cost to match the schedule, that forms a triangle, and those equal legs of the triangle have to stay together. If I add scope, I'll have to add cost and probably time to the schedule. If I shorten the schedule, there's going to be less cost, but what scope have I cut out, right? And if I change the requirements, increase or decrease, what is the impact on cost and schedule? So you can see if you change one of these legs in the iron triangle, you will change the other two almost assuredly. So the project manager is constantly concerned with these three aspects. Now, some examples of items in scope. Now that we're trying to control the deliverable, we're looking for technical issues, maybe quality problems along the way. What if the client requests a change in scope? And others as mentioned here, right? Market changes would be a change in scope, which may be an EEF, right? Enterprise environmental factor that we talked about in weeks past. Other examples in cost would be, what if we need more resources? What if our scope increased, requiring a change in resources? Maybe not in the number of resources, but maybe a different even skill level, right? What if we just bid too low? And that happens all the time in the real world. It shouldn't, but it does for competitive advantage, some companies. So that's your company strategy, but it's going to impact your project. What if your process owners report poorly or inaccurately, right? What if your budget was just bad to begin with? What if you never progressed from the rough order of magnitude budget that you had at that high level charter the planning that you put in the project charter, right? Or sometimes just prices change. These are just examples. There are many more you could add to these slides. These are just telling you some of the struggles you'll have in control with scope, cost, and schedule. These being the schedule slide or time management. That sometimes activities take longer to solve or work through than others, right? that the estimate for time was possibly optimistic. Well, if it was optimistic, that's going to then, and it's going to go longer. That's going to increase your costs, back to the last slide. And to the slide before that, that may impact the requirements, right? What didn't you know that you have to add as a requirement because it's taking longer that you've discovered? What if you had the sequence incorrect, right? So when we build our schedule, we put activities in a certain order, right? We called them finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. That was the logic of the order of activities in our schedule. Well, what if that was inaccurate, right? Now we've got to redo that, and that's going to change our resources, which is going to change our cost, and then back to our schedule, and it may change the requirements, right? What if the resources we thought were going to be available just weren't, right? And the list goes on and on. So these are just examples. So we come back to the area then where we go, well, you know what? Control becomes the way that we are going to make this happen. Problems happen. They're mechanistic, or they're often human related problems, right? And regardless, it's our job to work to control them. As we work the balance between leadership and management, feeling and fact, mechanistic problems and humanistic problems. What is causation versus what was chance, right? And then we have to act. We have to approach it in an orderly way. And this is partly what we're going to do. We're going to start by defining the problem. We're going to incorporate other control mechanisms that we've talked about earlier in this course, like team building and getting team buy-in and building detailed management plans that give us a sense of control. In quality control, we talked about metrics, quality metrics as an output, right? Because we're going to take these aspects and which are screaming for control by the project manager. Okay, so the fundamental purpose of control, if you're following along in the book, I'm on page 425. There are two objectives. One is the regulation of the results, and the other is stewardship of the assets, right? So stewardship of the assets. For example, if I have 10 resources sitting around and I go, you know what, I'll call them forward a couple days early, make sure I can stay on time. No, that's not good stewardship of the assets. Frankly, at that point, we've lost control. We want them just in time. And when their work is done, we want to release them, right? So the regulation of results and the stewardship of the organization, it's a balance that we are working through. And we work through that balance in various categories. One is physical asset control. You know, I'm familiar with the IT industry, and there it's asset management is one of the least managed, least utilized, but most problematic parts of project management. So we want, in control sense, I want to know what assets are on my network, or I can't manage my network. I can't keep it safe and secure. So I want to have control processes, physical processes, onboarding processes, offboarding processes. I want to understand the supply chain and control that. Done right, asset management in IT, this physical assets that I'm managing, computers and servers, done right, it will significantly increase control of the network traffic. Now, another area for control is human resources, right? Human resources, we want to grow and develop our people. We want to ask ourselves, how do we motivate our team? We want to be motivators in a sense of control because we want to develop high-performing teams. That's the goal, right? And so we start with Tuckman's stages of team development. Their teams are forming. They form together, forming, norming, storming, performing, and adjourning. In forming, you're getting them together. In storming, there's chaos because people are trying to figure out their roles and responsibilities and what are the expectations up front. So there's forming, storming, norming, where they begin to do their work and they do it well and it's okay, but you're not yet at high performance. So we want to get to performing, where frankly you get to motivate and mentor, coach, guide, lead, discipline. But largely you can assign a task and walk away. You participate as it helps the team. And then you're always doing conflict resolution and leading, etc. So those are human resource control. Then there's financial resource control, where the clients will insist on, and frankly courts will require, the practice of due diligence in the exercise of such responsibility. I love that term, due diligence, right? Because it says we have a responsibility. Due diligence is knowing the right thing, right? Due care is implementing the right thing, right? So if in IT, the right thing is to manage my network, right? Make sure only the authorized people are allowed on it. Due care would take action to make sure that happened. And so due care and due diligence, important aspects, but especially back to financial resource management, right? The Sarbanes-Oxley Act and other government regulations are mandates today because people didn't have good financial resource control. It's why we don't add management reserves to our project. I've known project managers do that. I'll throw in another 5 or 10%. No, that's not financial resource control, right? Because you're not learning lessons. You're not managing your budget. You're not offering explanations and doing root cause analysis to request the funds that you might need. So, yeah. So that's a financial resource control. So there are three types of control processes: cybernetic, go, no-go, and post-control processes that they talk about in the book. We are not simply waiting for something to go wrong as project managers and then fixing it. We must decide at what point in the project we will exert control. Right? What is to be controlled? You have to determine that in advance. How it will be measured, very important questions. And how much deviation will you even allow, right? Like, I want control of my finances, but I don't need everything in $1 billion project to go to a change board, because there would be a lot of changes, right? I might have everything from $0 to $10,000 the project manager can decide and justify to the sponsor once a month, right? In a summary report. Maybe anything from $10,000 to $100,000 I have to present it to the sponsor, but they could approve. And anything over $100,000 I can present to the change board for approval, right? So there are various levels, and we want to know how much can we, and where's the delta? If my variation is within $10 of planned on a $100 project, I'm okay with that. But if it goes over $10, it's more than 10%, I must make changes, right? That's how much deviation. So I'm going to try to normalize my data, level it out. And I'm going to use phase gates. At the end of each phase, I'm going to check my data, financial, schedule, cost, quality, risk, etc. And I'm going to do like go, no go. I'm going to make a decision. How am I doing? So anyhow, there are three basic types of control mechanisms that the book talks about: cybernetic control, go, no-go control, and post control. And we'll pick those up next.